Howdy all, and welcome to another episode of History of the United States according to Mr. Gresham. Today I'd like to talk about three gentlemen whose ideas are going to be very influential in the creation of our government here in the United States. And those three gentlemen are Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and the Baron de Montesquieu. Okay, so let's talk about Hobbes first. Hobbes is an English political philosopher who, after viewing the carnage that was the English Civil War, is going to write a book called The Leviathan. And in The Leviathan, he is going to suggest that because human beings, in their basic nature, are evil and brutish and mean, that we create governments to protect ourselves from ourselves. So there's this contract, this social contract between the people and the government. Okay? Now, John Locke is another English political philosopher. And John Locke is going to take things a step further. He's not only going to recognize this social contract between the people and the government, but he's also going to talk about something called natural or inalienable rights that all people have. And he does this in his work, The Second Treatise on Government. And so all people have these natural rights, and if the government doesn't protect these natural rights, in fact, if the government takes steps to infringe upon these natural rights, then the people have a right to get rid of that government because the contract, the social contract between the people and the government has been broken. Okay. So, Thomas Hobbes, we have a contract with our government. We create the government to protect ourselves from each other. John Locke, take that a step further. All people have natural rights, and therefore if the government takes actions that infringe upon these natural rights, then it is our legal right to get rid of said government. Okay, but that obviously creates a vicious cycle. Okay, people are nasty and brutish and mean, so we create governments to protect ourselves from ourselves. But who is in these governments? People. And so at some point, these people are going to take advantage of their position of power and will infringe upon the natural rights of the people. So at that point, the people rise up and replace the government with yet more people. So you can see how this is going to cycle. Okay, and we're just going to have this series of government replaced by another government, replaced by another government, replaced by another government. So how is it we can prevent this vicious cycle from taking place? Well, that's where the ideas of Montesquieu come into play. Montesquieu is going to suggest that we should separate the powers. Take the government powers, take the powers that we've given the government, and split them apart. Okay? Take some powers and put them over here, and some over here, and some over here. And so that no one branch of the government has too much power. And then throw in some checks where each part of the government has powers over the other parts, and the natural competition that will develop between them will prevent any one part of the government from becoming tyrannical, while at the same time the government as a whole has enough power to be efficient. All right, so how is it that these ideas of these three gentlemen led to the creation of the government we have here in the United States? Well, let's look at how they apply directly. Hobbes, the idea that we the people create the government. Okay, first line of our Constitution, we the people of the United States. Okay, we the people create the government. Let's look at Locke, all right? The idea that all men have natural rights, the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Okay, and that we can, if the government doesn't protect these rights, replace that government. Well, let's go to our own Thomas Jefferson, and let's look at the Declaration of Independence, kind of the document that kind of got the whole thing going. Right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Small change, but really not significant. He borrowed heavily from Locke. And let's go a line further. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter and abolish it. Okay? Straight from Locke. Now let's look at Montesquieu. Separation of powers. This one's very obvious. Look at our federal government. We have three branches. We have the legislative branch, we have the judicial branch, we have the executive branch. And each of these branches has very specific powers, and they each have checks over the other. So, hopefully this has helped you understand those three very important individuals. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time. Goodbye.